guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. As per usual, I have my wicked candle in here making the whole room smell like caramel apple. I don't have anything else to ramble about, so I'm just going to jump into this story. This is one from Facebook, so this is from my Facebook group. I have read one of their stories before. I will post it up in the eye if I remember to, but this is just another story that they wanted to share with me, so let's just jump into it. By the time I was 8, I had started school and become the weird kid to most. Sure, I had some friends, but they mostly just tolerated my strangeness. I was considered strange for many reasons. I hated sports and I loved nerdy things. I was more into playing piano or guitar than cars and trucks. I was socially awkward and I didn't like field trips. Honestly, all of those things are fairly understandable reasons as to why one would be singled out for being the weird kid. But there was this one other reason I was considered weird. The first time someone asked if we could have a sleepover at my house, without thinking, I responded, "Sure, let's do it. But just so you know, my house is haunted." By the end of the day, the entire class knew me as the scaredy cat and thought I was absolutely crazy. Living in a small town like we did, word had spread to my parents and grandparents by the end of the following day. I was humiliated. Not just because of my classmates, but now my dad and his parents are wondering if I should be taken away from my mom because she traumatized me. Sure, the things she subjected me to were traumatizing, but not in the way they thought, or even in a way that would reveal itself until way later in life. Plus, my dad was just as traumatizing as my mom was. To be honest, I didn't find the haunting stuff traumatizing at all. In fact, I was quite intrigued by the paranormal at that age. In my time living in that house on 8th Street, I hadn't experienced anything as intense as the staircase incident. But the idea of the house being haunted was more of just that. It was an idea. It had been so long since I'd experienced anything substantial that I'd begun to wonder if my house was actually haunted at all. Every now and then, usually late at night, you'd hear a door close on its own, or a small creak in the floor would jolt you out of falling asleep. Maybe even a couple of short notes on the piano would play on their own. But that was infrequent. And anytime I tried to bring it up to my mom, or her many friends who seemed to come and go, I was completely shut down. My mom would even try to play it off as if I was being overdramatic, and deny anything paranormal even happened. Honestly, thinking back on it, that was probably more traumatic to me than most of what happened in that house anyway. Mom had many friends, and because she didn't have a mortgage to pay, she would sometimes let her friends rent out one of the bedrooms, and we would live off of that income. The lack of responsibility allowed for some interesting things to play out. For example, no bedtime. I was just as much of my mom's friend as any of her other friends, and we would stay up until the sun came up if we wanted. I can remember all of us waiting until midnight, shutting off all of the lights in the house, and my mom's friends would hide throughout the house, and we'd have to find them. Other times, we'd sit on the balcony, and I'd convince one of her friends to tell me ghost stories late into the night. I honestly enjoyed having most of them around, and occasionally, I catch them telling my mom or another about something that happened to them in the house. It always made me curious as to why things weren't happening around me, and why I couldn't experience it and learn more about what was happening. One thing I didn't like, though, was that my mom always seemed to have a boyfriend. Keep in mind, I didn't care that my mom had a boyfriend. I really cared that the guys my mom brought home were monumental douchebags that always got my mom into other bad habits. Another thing I hated about it was that if my mom had a boyfriend, I couldn't sleep in her bed with her. See, Mom, being the gold star parent she was, had a knack for just leaving me places without saying anything. Because of that, I had insane separation anxiety, and I slept in my mom's bed anytime I stayed at her house. There was one guy who was kind of all right. His name was Dane. I wasn't thrilled with him, but he was nice and understanding. Mom was with him for about a year before things started to get rocky. Once they started getting rocky, things started to happen in the house. The usual creaks and piano noises started to pick back up, and they started happening during the day. Our cat started staring off into random doorways, especially upstairs. The balcony room became unbearable to be in, and I started feeling things in the house that I've never felt before. One early evening, near the end of Dane and Mom's relationship, they had left me at home to go to a friend's house for a bit. I was okay with it. I had just gotten a Nintendo 64 and was adequately distracted from anything going on. We'd set up the TV at front of the big living room so everyone could see it, and I was sitting in the middle of the floor, glued to Castlevania 64. About an hour had gone by and I was wrapped into my game when I heard Mom say, "Hi," as if greeting an unexpected guest from the living room behind me. It wasn't an odd occurrence for friends to stop by the house and just walk in the back door, so I didn't think anything of it. But then it hit me. The back door didn't open or close. Worst of all, I was home alone. My heart sank. I reached up and shut off the console in front of me, then turned off the TV with the remote. I sat in total silence, staring at the curved black CRT TV screen, hoping to catch a reflection of what was behind me, or at least hear something else to confirm I wasn't crazy. Eventually, I did stand up and turn around. Facing the kitchen from the front of the living room, I could see into a smaller living room to my left, the staircase, the open door to the bathroom, and into the kitchen. Then suddenly, I began to get this feeling that people were watching me from every open door in the house. I couldn't see anything though, but I knew they were there. I bolted towards the front door to my left, running across the street to play with the kids in the baseball field. I recognized one of the kids playing wasn't in my class, probably didn't know me, and was older and bigger than me. I panicked and told him that there was someone in my house, and I begged him to come back and check it out with me. He must not have known who I was because he happily walked with me and went through the house. Walking inside, the feeling was still there. It was the summertime and very hot and humid, so we just left the doors open. We were being watched though. I don't think he felt it like I did, but I knew we were being watched. He walked through most of the house with me and everything looked fine. There was no one else there. Halfway through going through the upstairs, Mom and Dad came back. Once I explained what had happened and why my new friend was in our house, my mom was furious. She thanked him and escorted him outside and was told to never do that again. A couple of days went by and I realized something. The fun allure of my house being haunted was gone, and I felt truly scared of my home for the first time in my life. I decided to move my Nintendo into my mom's room so I could play on a smaller space when no one was home. I was constantly watching over my shoulder and listening out for anything of the ordinary. The next time Mom and Dane left, it was after a large argument. They had decided to run off and argue in the car, or get high, or who knows what. But I was glad that they had left. I was cozy up in my mom's room with my Nintendo and the window AC unit blasting on me. I brought up some snacks, a drink, and was happy that there were only 2 ways in and out of the room. The door to the hallway and the small, completely blocked door from my mom's closet to the balcony room. Sure, I was scared, but the scare from the other day was starting to wear off, and I was trying to keep it off my mind. I'd been playing games for a while, got up to run to the bathroom, and rushed back upstairs to keep playing my game. Again, I was glued in front of the TV. Then, out of nowhere, I felt someone's finger touch my back near my left shoulder blade. Not only did they touch me, but it felt like the finger snag and slightly pull my shirt as the finger fell off my back. I've made one major mistake. I sat back down with my back facing the open door of the hallway. I lost it. Again, I ran outside as fast as I could and I ran to my grandparents' house. Of course, they didn't believe anything that I had to say. And Mom, when she got home and I'd finally told her why I had run off while she was gone, completely shut me down again and treated me like I was making this all up. The next day, Dane left for good and I went to spend the weekend at my dad's. I remember not being surprised, but somewhat sad that Dane was gone. When I made it back to my mom's house, the air felt thicker than it had when I had left. And even though the blinds were all open and the sun was shining into every room, the entire house felt darker than it had before. Mom and I didn't talk about what had happened the week prior or about Dane. We just sat around together and watched TV. That night, I'm not sure if it was a full moon, but it was brighter than usual and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. The entire room was lit from the moonlight and I found comfort that I could see everything in the room. Mom's bed was placed in the far back corner of the house up against a window. I remember laying in bed between Mom and the open window behind me. The cool breeze had already put her to sleep, and I was close behind. When all of a sudden, I heard the all too familiar creak of the first step of the staircase. Someone was walking up the stairs. The bedroom door was open, and I looked into the hallway and over the staircase. I laid there on my side with my head propped over my mom's shoulder, just high enough so I could peek at whatever was coming. Of course, the light was still out in the hallway, but some light bled through from the first floor and was casting a silhouette of a tall, skinny man walking up the stairs. I was relieved. Not only was it not the invisible stairwalker from my first experience, it looked like Dane was back and was walking up the stairs. I laid there, expecting Mom to wake up and realize Dane had come home. She was a hard sleeper though, and the creaking of the stairs didn't wake her. As the silhouette walked up the stairs past the view of the door, I waited for Dane to come into my mom's room. I heard him walking, taking slow, easy steps around the banister, further down the hallway, and turn into Mom's room. But when he walked into the room, I realized that Dane's tall, slender figure wasn't walking through the door. The silhouette was simply a black shadow of a person, now somewhat transparent in the bright sunlight, with no features whatsoever. The silhouette walked over to the side of the bed, standing right in front of where my mom was laying. He picked up the cover and crawled into the bed next to my mom, then vanished. The house was silent. I lay next to my mom, petrified, watching the cover where the silhouette had just laid flat again. I laid there staring into my room, watching and listening for anything and everything until the sun came up. I told my mom what had happened, and she once again denied everything. Within a couple of months, my mom was dating someone new. This guy was an alcoholic and an absolute idiot, and loved to take all of his problems out on us. It didn't help that my mom wasn't much different. I hadn't seen the silhouette again since that night, but other things were starting to happen. Different things were starting to come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and it was not getting better. On top of it all, my mom was now pregnant. And that's how they ended the story. Holy crap. I would love to read another update because that house sounds fucking terrifying. Like the first story that I read with the invisible stare, like intruder guy was terrifying, but this was just even more creepy. You literally saw someone walk up your stairs and it was just a shadow. Then it got into bed with you guys. Oh my God, I hate that so much. I am the biggest baby and there's no way I would have been able to stay there. I would have woke my mom up immediately because that is so fucking creepy. Holy crap. So I think I'm gonna read a couple more stories from just that I have saved here because I have a bunch of screenshots saved from that group and a bunch of them are really creepy. I work for a town's post office that is haunted by at least one ghost. He's turned the lights on in rooms no one has been in for hours. He's turned on the faucets in the janitor closet a few times and he threw the mail tubs all over the floor. The creepiest thing though was one morning I was working by myself super early and I turned and I saw a tall male figure in the middle of the room. At the time, I thought it was my stepdad. He was our postmaster at the time. I didn't think anything of it and I turned around to start working again and my stepdad, a few minutes later, walked in our back door. I was telling him about what I saw and he started describing what the guy looked like and it was exactly like I saw. He said, "Yeah, that's the postal ghost." My uncle does construction and was telling me that one time he was working on a house and he was throwing some stuff in the trash can and looked up to a guy staring right at him and asking him what he was doing in his house. My uncle talked to the owner of the home and described what the guy looked like. The owners pulled out a picture and asked if the guy in the picture was the one he saw. My uncle said yes, that was him. And they told him that the house belonged to their relative and that he had died just up the road from that house. When I was 7, my great-grandma that I was super close to passed away. She had lived with us for a while before she died, and she would sleep in my room. The night of her funeral, I was sleeping in the room with my radio, and my radio went to static and woke me up. I looked in the hallway and saw my great-grandmother leading a bunch of deceased people into my closet. And that's how they ended their story. Holy crap. So you have a postman, you have a creepy dude in your uncle's house, and you have your grandmother leading deceased people. I wonder if you have a portal in that house because that sounds like a lot of activity for like one small area. That is really creepy. My house was built in 1897. It had 2 structures on it before my house was built. I can often hear a baby crying when hanging laundry in the basement. No one has ever believed me though. We had an electrician in to wire some alarms and he kept giving me dirty looks. I finally had enough and asked what his problem was. He said, "How can you let your baby cry nonstop like that? What kind of a mother are you?" I responded that my children are 14 and 18. I have no babies in the house. It's a ghost that no one else but me believes is here. I told him that he was welcome to go look for himself. He went and looked and he found nothing and he was absolutely shaken. Oh my God, that's so creepy. They also said our home was used as a funeral parlor in the Buffalo 1918 influenza epidemic. I had sleep paralysis experiences where mourners were looking down at me speaking about how good I looked despite my illness. I was horrified. My husband shook me awake because I was making suffocating noises. We had a transformer outside our east window and I believe that helped attract more of the energies, plus whatever happened in the 2 properties before ours. And that is so fucking creepy. Oh my God. Me and my brother's rooms used to be perpendicular to each other and we shared a square hallway. He used to hide in the hallway and jump out at me when I would be going to my room and try to scare me, as older brothers often do. One day, as I was walking to my room, a black shadow figure of a person jumped out of the hallway, just as he does. and it scared me, and I screamed and swatted at it thinking it was my brother, and I immediately started laughing. Because you know, brother-sister scares are funny. I quickly realized that the figure that jumped out at me wasn't my brother. In fact, my brother wasn't home. It was only me and my mom was napping in the other side of the house. It still gives me chills knowing this shadow person was mimicking my brother. Oh my God, that's freaking creepy. When I was in early elementary school, the playground was by the woods. Now there was a fence screening it off, and honeysuckle grew pretty thick in those areas. Kids would pick and taste the nectar from the flowers when it was in bloom, and I would often relax in the shade by one of the patches. That's where I met my friend. She was a pretty girl, my age, with brown hair, green eyes, and always smelled of honeysuckle. We'd talk and play, but whenever the teachers called to wrangle in the kids inside, she would stay. I always wanted to walk in with her, but she said, "I don't go here." I didn't really get it, but I never pressured her. I introduced my friends to her, but they always seemed weirded out talking to her, but they'd never tell me why until years later. When I brought it up, they said that they don't remember any girl like that. They told me they just see me at the fence playing by myself. I knew I had an imagination, but she wasn't anything like I thought about. I thought about dragons, magic, monsters, and fantasy stuff. As far as I can recall, she was someone I got to know and became friends with. Might have even been my first crush if I could even process that. But every time I smell the scent of honeysuckle, I remember her clear as day. That is so weird. Oh my God. I'm gonna read one more and then we're gonna wrap up the video because we're already at the 20-minute mark. My ex and I bought a house together in 2020. We slept in a large single bedroom upstairs. The bed was placed next to a double-door crawl space that we used as a closet. We had a rescue pit bull at the time that slept on the bed with us. I would be in a deep sleep and wake up from hearing growling from our dog. It felt like a dream, but I would roll over and there would be a black dog with red glowing eyes coming out of the closet and growling back at my dog. It happened more than once. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. My body went numb both times and I was completely terrified. A few other creepy things happened around the house, but this was by far the worst. And they haven't told me anything else, so if they update me on more creepy things, I'll let you guys know, but that one is really fucking weird. I would hate that. Red glowing eyes coming out of my closet and growling. Fuck that. That is so scary. Holy crap. So this is where I'm going to end the video. If you guys did make it to the end of the video, please leave me your favorite follow emoji. I know I always ask you guys to leave emojis at the end of my videos, but that's just so that you guys can let me know that you made it to the end and that you liked these stories. If you guys have anything else that you want to comment down below, feel free to comment anything. I will try to respond to absolutely everyone. I love talking to you guys. I don't really understand why like bigger channels and bigger YouTubers don't talk to their audience. I love talking to you guys. So if you guys have any comments you want to talk about in the comments down below, please feel free to leave a comment. If you have any stories that you want to share with me, they can be creepy, paranormal, fictional, nonfiction, just any type of scary story in general that you want to share, please feel free to message me on Instagram. And you can also message me over my email. I will be getting to my email very shortly. I know I say that all the time, but I have a bunch that I'm ready to read and I'm very excited. So thank you so much for watching this video and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye.